Despite China's modest economic growth forecast, the communist regime will spend 7.1% more on defense this year, reaching a total of $229 billion. That's according to figures released on Saturday, and an expert says the real number may be even higher.
$229 billion. That's almost one-third of U.S. defense spending, and 9 times that of its neighbor Taiwan. Su Ziyun, a department head at Taiwan's Institute for National Defense and Security Research, says for Beijing, the expansion of its military power is the highest priority.
According to my personal research, China's military spending has doubled since Xi Jinping came to power in 2012.
Li Zhengxiu, an expert at Taiwan's National Policy Foundation, says the Chinese regime's real defense budget is likely higher than the official numbers.
The Chinese budget, especially the defense budget, has never been transparent. The money is scattered among different areas. For example, part of certain universities' budget for scientific research and development is actually used for military equipment. So many think that the actual amount may be much higher than what is announced.
The regime has the world's largest standing military, with 3 million personnel, while the U.S. has 1.4 million active troops. But the Chinese regime still falls short in other areas. For example, it has 2 active aircraft carriers, compared with 11 in the U.S., and the U.S. also owns the world's most cutting-edge military equipment and technology. Kuo Yujun, a security expert at Taiwan's National Sun Yat-sen University, says Beijing is forced to spend more on research and development in light of the China-U.S. technology war. Beijing's defense spending this year is under closer scrutiny from the international community. That's as Russia's invasion of Ukraine sparks speculation that China might be more likely to attempt a takeover of Taiwan if it sensed a lack of resolution from the U.S. and its allies.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken is visiting Eastern European countries in response to the war between Russia and Ukraine. On Saturday, he also talked to China's top diplomat. Blinken is expecting China to condemn Russia, as Beijing often speaks about the sanctity of sovereignty. In an interview with CNN on Sunday, Blinken said he spent 1 hour talking to the Chinese foreign minister.
You know, China speaks often about the sanctity of this principle of sovereignty. We would expect China, based on everything it's said in the past, to stand up and make its voice heard. Its voice is very important in this. And 141 countries in the UN system came forward to condemn Russia's aggression against Ukraine and to stand up for Ukraine.
The United Nations passed a resolution last Wednesday condemning Russia's invasion. 141 countries, including the U.S., voted in favor. 35 nations, including China, Cuba, and Iran, abstained. 5 countries, including Russia, voted against. House Republican leader Kevin McCarthy is calling on Congress to speed up weapons sales to Taiwan. He tweeted saying, so that Taiwan can safeguard their future against China.
Is a new order of the world just being built? Could Russia's military attack on Ukraine be the start of a dramatic change to the balance between the world's 3 leading powers? And could that disturbance threaten the U.S.'s dominance in the world order? This kind of powerful change has been quietly creeping into play for some time. But until a week ago, it was happening gradually. For instance, Russia can now turn off the lights in Europe at will, as it's become a critical gas supplier to Europe. Likewise, China could cause a mass personal protective equipment or PPE shortage across the entire Western world amid the pandemic, because China is the globe's manufacturing powerhouse and the second most powerful economy in the world. China also has a rapidly expanding military and is stepping up threats on Taiwan and its neighbors in the South China Sea. And on top of that, Russia and China have built a partnership, though it's largely based on shared interests instead of values.
An interesting history, but they really fill each other's gaps like a puzzle piece, right? Demographically, space, tech, cyber, natural resources.
The challenges facing the United States and the rest of the democratic world right now are much different than those during the Cold War. The current economic links between many of these nations didn't exist decades ago. And China, as Russia's partner, had been at the brink of economic collapse after numerous political campaigns launched by the Communist Party. Only in the 80s did China start to thrive.
And now Chinese tech firms doing business with Russian entities are facing a dilemma: whether to comply with American sanctions or Beijing's opposition of the sanctions. NTD's Don Ma takes a closer look.
Will Chinese tech firms comply with U.S. sanctions, which ban technology made using American machinery, software, or blueprints from being exported to Russia? Or will they comply with Beijing's official position of opposing sanctions? One thing they have to weigh is what Chinese laws say.
There is actually a law on the books in China right now saying that if you go along with U.S. sanctions against China, you will be sanctioned.
But it seems regardless which side Chinese firms take, there will be consequences.
They're going to see their business decline. And that's going to happen if they obey the rules of China. If they disobey the rules of China, they're going to have their heads lopped off.
Some firms that faced this dilemma include Chinese ride-hailing giant Didi. Didi initially announced that it would pull out of Russia, but just a few days later, Didi made another announcement that it will continue operations in Russia. Speculation is that it was due to pressure from Beijing. But following Beijing's position means going against U.S. sanctions and possibly facing repercussions.
I think it's easy pickings for the United States to go after Chinese companies. I see a lot of their future outside China profits as effectively being cut off.
Harris says that Chinese companies are facing a lose-lose situation, regardless of what they do.
Though Putin and Xi Jinping's announcement of a new strategic partnership on the opening day of the Beijing Winter Olympics did mark a breakthrough, China's support for Russia did not start last month. The two have long worked together to skirt or reduce the effects of potential sanctions from the U.S. and its allies. That includes strengthening trade relations, gradually reducing reliance on U.S. dollars, and attempting to build an alternative financial system. According to the Financial Times report, Russia and China recently secured several energy deals that are mostly settled using Chinese yuan instead of dollars. The two started using their own currencies for bilateral trade in 2010 and opened their first currency swap line in 2014. Since then, the portion of trade settled through yuan between the two countries rose from 3.1% in 2014 to 17.5% in 2020. Yuan was used to settle 28% of Chinese exports to Russia in the first half of 2021, compared to 2% in 2013. Russia also increased the weight of Chinese yuan in their foreign currency reserves from 0.1% in 2017 to 13.1% as of June 2021. In contrast, the U.S. dollar's weight dropped from just over 46% to 16% in the same period. Federal agencies have arrested a California-based military contractor for allegedly sending technology to China. The Justice Department said he broke federal export laws by sending out sensitive U.S. tech to multiple foreign countries.
Federal agencies arrested 77-year-old Joe Seri, former owner and CEO of Tungsten Heavy Powder and Parts. They allege he knowingly and willfully exported military intelligence. The intelligence includes data and drawings to China and India without U.S. approval. The San Diego-based company supplies fragments and weapon-grade components made of tungsten, a rare metal, to the military. He conspired with his 70-year-old brother, Dror Seri, a dual citizen of Israel and South Africa. He remains a fugitive and is believed to be living in Israel. A U.S. attorney stated, the indictment alleges that these brothers disregarded important regulations designed to keep sensitive information from falling into the hands of those who would harm America. The brothers allegedly created a non-company email to secretly access the sensitive documents from Tungsten's part system. They exported the sensitive technical drawings by email when Dror was in India and China. Prosecutors said Tungsten Parts had contracts with multiple aerospace and defense companies from 2016 to 2019 to work on projects involving the construction of an advanced rapid response weapon. It's illegal to transfer data, goods, and services that are designed as defense items out of the United States without a license. If convicted, violators face a maximum penalty of up to 20 years in prison and a $1 million fine. Tungsten Parts has agreed to assist with the investigation.